Danhausen's current storyline is a bit out there, but it could lead to some pretty insane moments. We'll also check out what's up with Maxxine, Dominik, and more. Starting things off with everything related to Maxxine Dupri, Alpha Academy, and Chad Gable, because this is a pretty deep situation. Chad Gable in the original version of the Alpha Academy was a faction with deep meaning and purpose. A wrestling veteran like Chad Gable took in these three superstars that everyone was looking over, and he saw potential in them to grow, master their craft, and become something special. And Maxxine was one of the biggest students for Chad Gable. Before Chad Gable came along, Maxxine was trying to run a male modeling agency and was mostly a manager. But through joining the Alpha Academy and becoming a student, Chad Gable molded Maxxine to be her own star and hang in the ring with the biggest names in the company. Maxxine adored her teacher Chad Gable and always gave him great words of praise for his teaching, patience, and overall knowledge. But we all know that near-perfect teacher and student relationship came crashing down after Chad Gable started spiraling into insanity. Chad Gable lost that match in 2025 against Penta, and he pretty much lost his mind as well. Chad Gable became weirdly obsessed with Lucha Libre that he started to wear a mask to basically make a mockery of them. His goal went from teaching his students to trying to win the Intercontinental title for himself and not caring about anyone else at all. This led to him transitioning from being an amazing teacher to truly a ruthless instructor with no limits. Chad Gable went from trying to help his students learn to taking out his frustrations on them and humiliating them. And no one really felt that impact more than Maxxine. Chad Gable put Maxxine through so much that she even refused to speak his name out loud at all. So when they started to tease this apology tour for Chad Gable, a lot of fans were curious to see what that interaction between Maxxine and Chad was like, because if anyone had a reason not to accept his apology, it was definitely Maxxine. And this is the segment that went down on the June 22nd edition of Raw. After apologizing to all the major stars of Lucha Libre, Chad Gable thought it was time to apologize to the main group that was affected by him the most, and that was, of course, the Alpha Academy. The Alpha Academy comes down to the ring, and Chad Gable gives a deep apology to the three of them with tears in his eyes and a cracking voice. And when he's done, and he's about to shake hands with Otis, it's Maxxine who steps in the way and denies the apology on her behalf and on behalf of the Alpha Academy as a whole. Maxxine lights Chad Gable up on the mic with what fans are calling the greatest promo of Maxxine's young career so far. Maxxine lists all of the insane and out-of-bound things that Chad Gable did to her over the last few years, and even rubbed in his face how she was able to reach his goal before him of winning the Intercontinental title. Maxxine fully rejects the apology and takes the rest of the group with her. It seemed like Otis really did want to forgive Chad Gable, but he ultimately listened to Maxxine. So what's going on here, and why did Maxxine react this way? Well, first of all, Maxxine's reaction is understandable and pretty much justified. It's easy to forget what Chad Gable put her through, since it all went down over a year ago, but if you go back and see what Chad was putting Maxxine through back then, you would definitely understand Maxxine's reasoning for rejecting the apology. Maxxine also reacted this way because she herself is in the middle of a heel turn transition. Maxxine has been spending the last few months hanging around with Austin Theory and The Vision, so you can say that Maxxine's mind and way of thinking right now is already lightly contaminated with that heel-like aggression that she's been picking up from The Vision. And Maxxine stopping the reunion between Chad and Otis most definitely seems like WWE's way of soft-launching Maxxine's official heel turn. Maxxine is doing something that the crowd doesn't like. She's stopping these two longtime friends from putting their differences aside and being friends again. And Maxxine has her good reasons, but the crowd obviously didn't go through what Maxxine went through personally, so they don't really get where Maxxine is coming from. They're booing because they just want to see Chad Gable reunite with his friends. And this reaction from the crowd may continue Maxxine's spiral to insanity and her heel transition. When Maxxine realizes that the crowd doesn't understand why she turned down the apology, that may lead towards Maxxine turning her back on the fans. And when Maxxine realizes that the other members of the Alpha Academy aren't fully on her side either, and how they want to accept the apology, that may be the last straw for Maxxine's time as a member of the Alpha Academy. This whole apology rejection with Chad Gable may cause Maxxine to lose the support of the fans and her own Alpha Academy members. leaving her all alone, heartbroken, and now officially running into the arms of Austin Theory and the Vision. She'll be showing up to the Vision now, being fully available following the fallout of the Chad Gable apology, and this would officially start Maxxine's run in the Vision. They've been teasing Maxxine joining the Vision for what feels like 6 months already, so with them teasing it for so long, you would hope and assume that they have something big planned there for Maxxine's official arrival into the Vision. But no, in this regime, sometimes they don't really have anything planned for these long-term teasers, so we'll just have to wait and see what they're really gonna do there for when Maxxine officially does join the Vision. But that really appears to be the reasoning for this entire apology between Chad Gable and the Alpha Academy. It will probably be the big catalyst that gets Maxxine away from the crowd and Alpha Academy and finally pushes her towards the Vision completely. So keep an eye on this story, because it may be Maxxine's final days as a babyface character. Danhausen's electricity storyline and shocking people backstage is goofy and wonky, no doubt about it. But it's these crazy storylines, like this one, that opens up the door to some pretty entertaining fan theories. We've been talking about this Danhausen story a lot this week, but just to sum it up, if you get electrocuted by Danhausen's devices, a series of different things could happen to you. You can get your memory wiped, you can revert to previous eras of yourself, or just get frozen in time. We've seen these different things happen to The Miz, Kit Wilson, Matt Cardona, and JD McDonough. But the possibilities for this storyline and who it can affect is truly endless. And knowing what we know about the effects so far, fans feel like Dominik Mysterio would make for a perfect candidate to be shocked. If this shock erases memory and sends superstars back to their previous eras, that means if Dominik gets shocked, there's a chance he forgets everything that happened over the last few years. There's a chance he forgets about everything that ever happened with the Judgment Day, and he forgets about even turning heel on Rey Mysterio and everything that happened there. If Dominik gets shocked by Danhausen, it's very possible that we could see Dominik's 2020 and 2021 persona make a cameo appearance. It doesn't have to be long-term, maybe Dominik just feels the effect for a night or so. But it just would be pretty entertaining and insane to see Dominik acting like his babyface self again, speaking positively about his father, and maybe even speaking directly to Rey as if they're still a tag team. That would make for some pretty insane moments right there for the show. Some fans are theorizing a similar path for Johnny Gargano. For Johnny Gargano and his fans, it's been a painful near 6 months of just seeing him planking backstage and doing nothing else at all on the shows. So if Johnny Gargano gets a Danhausen shock himself, maybe that will really bring Johnny Gargano back to life and back to his NXT self again, because fans are extremely frustrated with this planking storyline that has not made any advancements at all since it began. So shocking Johnny Gargano out of his planking state may be the only way to save him there as well. But what are your thoughts on today's stories? Leave your comments below, don't forget to subscribe with all notifications on, and leave a like if you enjoyed. Thanks for watching, guys.